How many times have you heard someone say, "Just follow your passion and happiness will come"? Or, "Happiness is the goal, and it's something you have to chase down." For many of us, this is the cultural narrative we've been raised with. We've been taught that happiness is something to be pursued, something we have to work hard for, something we can eventually catch if we just get the right job, the right relationship, or the right number of followers. But what if I told you that in the pursuit of happiness, we are actually sabotaging ourselves? What if the harder we chase it, the more elusive it becomes? Today, we're diving deep into the paradox of happiness and why chasing it might just be the very thing that keeps it out of reach. Let's uncover why the idea of finding happiness may be the source of our misery, and explore how we can truly attain fulfillment. Let's start with a psychological concept known as the hedonic treadmill, introduced by psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald T. Campbell in the 1970s. Imagine this. You've just bought a new car. The excitement is through the roof. You drive it around, showing it off, and for a while, you feel elated. But a few months later, that same car becomes just another part of your daily routine. The thrill wears off, and you're back to the baseline level of happiness you had before. This is the essence of the hedonic treadmill, a phenomenon where no matter what we achieve or acquire, we eventually return to our baseline level of happiness. Why does this happen? According to research, we quickly adapt to new circumstances. The new car, the promotion, the vacation, it all becomes normal sooner than we realize. As soon as the novelty wears off, we start seeking the next big thing to feel that rush again. Brickman and Campbell argued that our emotional states tend to reset after any significant positive or negative event, leaving us in a perpetual state of seeking external stimuli to boost our happiness. This is the very nature of hedonic adaptation. We think we can chase happiness by acquiring more or achieving more, but eventually it all fades into the background. And then the cycle repeats itself. This brings us to one of the most influential philosophers in the realm of self-overcoming and existential thought, Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche famously declared, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." Nietzsche's philosophy was rooted in the idea of becoming, not finding. He argued that happiness is not a final destination, but rather a byproduct of the active pursuit of personal growth, power, and self-overcoming. To Nietzsche, the idea of happiness was illusory. He believed that we should stop seeking to be happy and start seeking to become the best versions of ourselves. Nietzsche introduced the concept of the Bermensch, or overman, as a symbol of the individual who constantly overcomes obstacles, who challenges and reshapes themselves through hardship. This process of becoming, not finding, is what creates true fulfillment in life. When we chase happiness as an ultimate goal, we treat it as a static thing, something that can be found, owned, or possessed. Nietzsche's view challenges this. He argued that by focusing on becoming, on constantly evolving, growing, and testing our limits, we naturally experience fulfillment. Ironically, those who focus on chasing happiness may never attain it, because they are focused on something external rather than their own internal growth. Let's step back and take a look at modern society. We live in a time where comparison is just a click away. Social media has become the new stage for highlight reels, where everyone's best moments are on display: vacations, relationships, and achievements that make others feel inadequate. The idea is simple. If they have it, so should I. If they're happy, I should be happy too. But the truth is, this relentless comparison can actually make us feel miserable. We see others' success and think it's a reflection of our failure, rather than recognizing that happiness is not about external accomplishments. Research supports this idea. Dr. Zhang Tuange, a psychologist and researcher, has found that social media use is strongly linked to increased feelings of loneliness and lower levels of well-being, especially among younger generations. Why? Because it feeds into the notion that happiness is something others have, not something you can cultivate from within. This social comparison theory, first coined by Leon Festinger in 1954, argues that people evaluate their own worth by comparing themselves to others. While this can sometimes inspire growth or learning, more often than not, it triggers feelings of inadequacy and dissatisfaction. When we use social media to measure our happiness against others, we enter a constant cycle of inadequacy. We chase happiness through validation from external sources, and the more we chase, the further it slips away. The key to breaking free from this happiness paradox lies in the power of mindfulness. Studies have shown that people who practice mindfulness tend to experience more satisfaction in their lives, because they focus on being present rather than obsessing over future desires or past regrets. Jon Kabat-Zinn, one of the leading researchers in mindfulness, has demonstrated how the practice can lead to lasting reductions in stress and improvements in overall well-being. Mindfulness is about being fully engaged in the present moment without judgment. It involves observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attachment to them. By cultivating mindfulness, you can break free from the cycle of comparison and constant striving. Instead of chasing happiness as something external to achieve, you begin to experience it by being present with your current reality, accepting life as it is, and finding peace in the present. No discussion of happiness would be complete without acknowledging Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor who developed a groundbreaking approach to psychotherapy called logotherapy. Frankl's famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, explores his experiences in concentration camps and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Frankl argued that the pursuit of happiness is secondary to the pursuit of meaning. He stated, "Happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. One must have a reason to be happy, or, to put it another way, one must have a reason to live." Frankl's insights reveal that the search for meaning in life, even in the most difficult of circumstances, is far more important than chasing fleeting moments of happiness. People who have a sense of purpose or meaning are often happier and more resilient in the face of adversity, not because they are trying to find happiness, but because they are living for something larger than themselves. This idea challenges the common notion that happiness should be the ultimate goal. Frankl teaches us that happiness is an outcome of living a meaningful life, not a goal in itself. One of the most powerful lessons in the paradox of happiness comes from acceptance. Acceptance is not about resignation. It's about acknowledging that life is imperfect and that trying to force happiness is futile. Radical acceptance, as coined by therapist Tara Brach, involves fully accepting the present moment, even when it is uncomfortable or challenging. It's about making peace with the fact that not everything can or should be controlled. Instead of striving endlessly for happiness, radical acceptance invites us to embrace what is both the positive and the negative. When we stop pushing away discomfort or unhappiness, we make space for the natural ebb and flow of life. The more we fight against our emotions or circumstances, the more we feed the illusion that happiness is something to be chased. But when we accept life as it comes, we begin to realize that contentment doesn't come from changing our external circumstances, it comes from how we choose to relate to them. Now, let's shift our focus back to the big picture. The idea that happiness is a destination that we can reach is deeply ingrained in our culture. We've all heard the phrase, "I'll be happy when I achieve X, Y, or Z." But as we've seen, this mindset traps us in a perpetual cycle of seeking one that leads to disappointment, frustration, and burnout. In truth, happiness is not a static state we can achieve once and for all. It's not something we can find at the end of a journey or after meeting a specific milestone. Happiness is a journey itself, one that is full of twists, turns, setbacks, and moments of joy. It's about how we experience life as it unfolds, not about waiting for the perfect moment when everything aligns. The great philosopher Albert Camus once wrote about the absurd nature of life, acknowledging that we live in a world where meaning is elusive, and yet we continue to seek it. Despite the absurdity, Camus argued that we should embrace life fully, without the expectation of ultimate happiness. In his famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus presents the idea of finding meaning even in the struggle itself. Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a mountain only to watch it roll back down, becomes the symbol of our search for meaning in an indifferent universe. However, Camus suggests that Sisyphus finds contentment not through the completion of the task, but by accepting it as his own. Similarly, we find joy not in completing the quest for good. Another paradox is the role of suffering in the process of becoming. Happiness, in many ways, is not simply about pleasure, but about the resilience and growth we gain from facing challenges. As Carl Jung famously said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Jung's philosophy of individuation, the process of becoming the person you are meant to be, is deeply tied to facing the shadow of ourselves, confronting our fears, weaknesses, and unresolved pain. In other words, the pursuit of happiness often requires us to embrace discomfort and suffering. If we shield ourselves from pain, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to grow, evolve, and ultimately find fulfillment. This is counterintuitive to the common desire to avoid suffering at all costs. But in embracing it, we are forging the very strength that can lead us to true contentment. While suffering itself doesn't inherently lead to happiness, how we respond to suffering makes all the difference. Viktor Frankl, as we mentioned earlier, found meaning in the darkest of circumstances. His suffering in a concentration camp did not extinguish his spirit. Instead, it gave him a deeper understanding of life's meaning, proving that even in the most challenging conditions, we can choose our response. In a similar way, our response to life's struggles is what ultimately shapes our experience of happiness. In our modern world, there's a pervasive myth that happiness should be permanent, that it's a state we should achieve and sustain indefinitely. But this myth is not only unrealistic, it's also harmful. Constantly striving to be happy all the time only sets us up for failure. Happiness, by its very nature, is fleeting. It's a momentary feeling that can come and go, influenced by our circumstances, emotions, and thoughts. The pursuit of eternal happiness not only distorts the concept of happiness, but also places unrealistic expectations on ourselves. No one can be happy all the time, and anyone who claims otherwise is probably selling something. Instead of chasing a permanent state of happiness, we should focus on cultivating contentment and gratitude for the moments when happiness does arise. By doing so, We free ourselves from the pressure of maintaining happiness and allow ourselves to experience life more fully, with all its complexities and contradictions. So, how do we resolve this paradox? How can we stop chasing happiness and start finding it? The answer lies in embracing the paradox itself. We must accept that happiness is not a permanent state, but a byproduct of how we choose to engage with life. We must embrace the tension between striving for a meaningful life and accepting the impermanence of happiness. By focusing on growth, meaning, and personal development, rather than chasing happiness itself, we can experience a more fulfilling, grounded existence. Instead of seeking happiness as a destination, we should seek fulfillment in becoming the best versions of ourselves. This process doesn't guarantee constant joy, but it creates a deeper, more lasting sense of contentment, rooted in meaning and growth. When we stop seeing happiness as something we need to find or acquire, and instead embrace it as a momentary experience, we begin to appreciate the richness of life in all its ups and downs. The pursuit of happiness has been woven into the fabric of our culture, but as we've seen, it's a double-edged sword. Chasing happiness often leads to its elusiveness. By focusing on becoming on growth, meaning, and personal transformation, we unlock the true potential for happiness. Happiness isn't found. It's forged through the trials and triumphs of life. So, stop chasing the illusion of eternal joy and start embracing the process of becoming your best self. The real happiness you seek is already within you, ready to emerge through the paradox of life.